World Geography, Basics of Geography, Interior and Surface. After viewing this video, you should be able to accomplish the following tasks. First, you should be able to describe the structure of the Earth. Second, what are tectonic plates and describe their effect on the surface of the Earth. The third thing you should be able to accomplish is to describe the elements of the hydrosphere. And finally, number 4 is you want to be able to distinguish between weathering, erosion, and deposition. Structure of the Earth. Inside the Earth, the outer core of the Earth is liquid, but the inner core is solid. It is made up of iron and nickel. Surrounding this iron and nickel inner core is the mantle. The mantle contains magma, which is molten rock, and this magma can rise through the crust. You may want to pause here, examine this diagram to understand these concepts a little bit more clearly. On and above the Earth. The lithosphere is the crust of the Earth. It's what we stand on, it's what we build our homes on. Land masses rise above the seafloor, and these are referred to as continents. There are 7 continents: North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, and Antarctica. Now, surrounding the Earth is the atmosphere, and it contains the oxygen we breathe. It protects the planet from radiation, and it provides the medium for weather and climate. It holds the rain. The hydrosphere, these are the water elements of the Earth, and they include the oceans, seas, rivers, lakes, and water. The water in the atmosphere. The biosphere. The lithosphere, atmosphere, and hydrosphere, these all form the biosphere, and this is the part of the Earth where plants and animals live. Plate movement. Continental drift. There's a scientific hypothesis that argues that the continents once fit together into a single giant continent. But over time, this landmass separated and the pieces drifted apart. This is called the tectonic plate theory, sometimes referred to also as the continental drift hypothesis. Tectonic plates. Earth's continents are attached to large slabs of rock known as tectonic plates. These plates, they move just a few centimeters a year due to heat from the mantle and due to gravity. Here's a diagram. You may want to pause again and study it. It's the tectonic plates that make up our planet. You can see the direction in which they're moving if you look closely at the arrows. And the red section is the ring of fire, which we'll refer to in a few minutes. Plate boundaries. Tectonic plates, they inevitably come into contact with one another, and when they do, there are changes on the surface of the Earth. There are 3 types of boundaries that mark these plate movements. The first is the divergent boundary. This is when plates are moving apart from one another. They're spreading horizontally. They may expose the interior of the Earth, and this is an area where you may see volcanoes. The second type of boundary is the convergent boundaries. This is when plates collide with one another. One plate may dive beneath another and force the top plate up, or they may crumple like 2 cars in a traffic accident or something. In either case, you're going to probably see mountains in this region, or at least low hills. Transform boundaries. These are areas where the plates grind or they slide past one another. In this area, you're usually going to encounter maybe earthquakes. Here are several pictures of the different types of boundaries. You have divergent, convergent, collision, convergent, subduction, and transform. If you pause here and study these, I think you'll understand the concept more clearly. Earthquakes and volcanoes. Earthquake location. Nearly 95% of all recorded earthquakes occur around these major tectonic plate boundaries. The area along the Pacific Rim, and then from southern Asia westward to southern Europe, around Turkey and Italy, this area makes a region that's especially vulnerable to quakes. An undersea earthquake may cause a tsunami, and this is a giant, fast-moving wave in the ocean. It can swamp the land and cause a tremendous loss of life. The point on the Earth's surface that's directly above the earthquake's origin, that's called the epicenter. Earthquake measurement. The violent movement as plates grind and slip past each other, as we mentioned, this is an earthquake. And a seismograph is a machine that measures the size of the waves created by an earthquake. And the Richter scale, this is a tool that uses the information from the seismograph to determine the relative strength of a quake so that you can compare one earthquake to another. A major quake is one that has a measurement of 7.0 or more. Earthquake damage. Earthquakes squeeze and stretch and shear the Earth's crust, and this damages the land and the structures that are on this crust. Damage can include landslides, fires from broken gas lines in cities, and collapsed buildings. Aftershocks are the smaller magnitude quakes that occur after the initial larger shock. Here are some photographs of the 2011 Japanese earthquake and tsunami. You may want to pause here again and study them so you can understand the tremendous devastation that a tsunami can cause to the land. Volcano formation. Magma, gases, and water, these can sometimes collect in underground chambers. And then they explode and they pour out of a crack in the Earth's surface, causing a volcano. On the surface of the Earth, we refer to magma as lava. Volcanoes do not erupt on a predictable schedule. Ring of fire and hot spots. The Ring of Fire is this zone around the rim of the Pacific Ocean where the 8 major tectonic plates meet, and active volcanoes are quite common. A few volcanoes occur over hot spots, and this is where magma melts through the Earth's surface. This is the case in the Hawaiian Islands. You may want to pause here and look at the location of volcanoes. You can see how they kind of form a ring around the Pacific Ocean, and this is what we call the Ring of Fire. Hot springs and geysers. Hot springs and geysers, these are indicators that there's high temperature in this region. These hot springs occur when groundwater circulates near a magma chamber, and a geyser erupts with steam jets and boiling waters, kind of like Old Faithful in the National Park Yosemite. The benefits of volcanoes. Good things come from volcanoes. Volcanic ash produces fertile soil, and the volcanic heat and steam can be used to produce pretty much a limitless supply of energy. Hydrosphere. Oceans. The ocean is one big interconnected body of salt water that covers about 71% of the Earth. It contains 97% of the water on the Earth. Tides. Tides rise and they fall. They're caused by the gravitational pull of the moon on the Earth's ocean waters. The waters that face the moon bulge outwards, creating a high tide where the water comes in from the sea towards the land. There's another high tide on the other side of the Earth, caused by the force of the Earth's spin. Sea levels are highest when the moon and the sun are both lined up on the same side of the Earth. They're lowest when the sun and the moon are on opposite sides of the Earth. Ocean currents. Ocean currents, these occur on the surface of the ocean and below. The surface currents are caused by the spinning of the Earth and winds. The water that's heated by the sun moves away from the equator very slowly. It carries the heat energy back towards the polar regions, either the North Pole or the South Pole. In one example, the Gulf Stream, also called the North Atlantic Drift, carries warm water from the Gulf of Mexico region towards the United Kingdom, making it this very high latitude country. It's very near to the North Pole, actually, but it makes this country, the warm ocean current, it makes it warmer than it would otherwise be. Lakes. Lakes hold more than 95% of all the Earth's fresh water. The largest freshwater lake is Lake Baikal in Russia. It holds 18% of all fresh water on Earth. Some freshwater lakes, like the Great Lakes, are the result of glaciers that have carved out big gashes in the land, which later filled with water. There are saltwater lakes in the world, like the Dead Sea or the Aral Sea, and these are the result of the changes in the Earth's surface that cut these lakes off from any outlet to the sea. So they just become saltier and saltier over time. Rivers and streams. Rivers and streams move water to and from larger bodies of water. The small branch of a stream that feeds into a river is called a tributary. And an area that's drained by a major river and its tributaries, like the Amazon River Basin, this is called a drainage basin. Groundwater. Some water on the surface of the Earth is held by the soil, and some flows into the pores of the rock below the soil. The water that is held in these pores of rock is called groundwater. The level at which the rock is saturated with water is the water table. The water table, it can rise and fall depending on the amount of rainfall, also depending on the amount of water that people pump out of the ground to drink or to irrigate their crops. Hydrologic cycle. The hydrologic cycle, the water cycle, this is the continuous circulation of water between atmosphere, oceans, and the Earth. The sun heats the surface of oceans and lakes, causing evaporation. Condensation then happens when tiny droplets that are small enough to float in the atmosphere form clouds. And then as the droplets grow larger and heavier, they fall back to the Earth as precipitation, rain, snow, or hail. So there's evaporation, condensation, precipitation. This is the hydrologic cycle. You may want to pause for a minute so that you understand this concept. Weathering, erosion, soil. Weathering. When rocks are worn down on the Earth's surface by wind, water, ice, and living things, little animals like bacteria, this is called weathering. When rain and water, running water, break down rock into smaller particles, this is mechanical weathering. Acids and little microscopic organisms, they can also cause rock to break down and disintegrate. Chemical weathering changes rock into a new substance as a result of this interaction between the elements in the air and water and the minerals in the rock itself. Erosion. When rock, sand, and soil are broken down and carried away, this is erosion. A river uses erosion to cut a canyon through solid rock, like the Grand Canyon. Glaciers, large sheets of ice, these can carve and wear away a region, leaving behind valleys and lakes. And wind erosion creates unique landforms, like the one on the right, called Delicate Arch. Deposition. The same forces that erode one place can deposit particles and sediment in another place and build that area up. This is the process called deposition. So rivers carry sediment downstream and then deposit the sediment often where they meet the ocean. Ocean waves can bring sand to the beach. Soil building. Weathered particles of rocks, they mix with decaying plants and animals to create soil. Soil is a mixture of sand, clay, rocks, water, fungi, bacteria, and decayed plant and animal material called humus. Soil types. There are several types of soil, each with its own texture, ability to hold water, and ability to support plant life. Desert sands. They don't support many forms of life. The constant rainfall in the rainforest, this washes away the minerals and nutrients in the soil. And so rainforest soil is not very fertile and doesn't support many different types of plants or crops. Grasslands, these have a much higher level of organic matter, and they are best for farming. Landforms. Oceanic landforms. The surface of the earth from the edge of a continent to the deep part of the ocean, this is the continental shelf. The ocean floor itself has ridges, mountain chains, valleys, canyons, plains, just like the surface of a continent. The ridges of the ocean floor are where new crust is formed. Islands also dot the ocean surface. Continental landforms. Relief separates one type of landform from another. Relief is the difference in elevation of a landform from its lowest point to its highest point. There are 4 categories of relief: mountains, hills, plains, and plateaus. A plateau is sort of like a hill or a mountain with a flat top. Topography. This term refers to the combination of land features in a region. All right, that's it for today. Thank you for listening.